right, we are back live. This is the Bolo Punch Boxing Hour, brought to you by George Rogie Insurance, www.bolopunchboxinghour.com. Streaming to you live, as always, on Ustream.tv. On the phone right now, I've got the gentleman, the former multi-weight champion of the world. He's going to be taking on David Diaz at UIC Pavilion this Saturday night. I am talking about the one and only Jesus Chavez. Jesus, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing well, thank God.
Yeah, you are. You've overcome quite a bit in the last couple of years, and that's the mark of a real man who is able to go through the things you've gone through and still come out swinging. And I mean, I don't need to bring up any names in particular. We all know the stories, but I mean, just the knee injury, the leg injury, taking so much time off. I mean, and here you are, ready to shine some more. We love that. So.
Hello?
Yes, right here, right here.
I'm sorry. Well, I think it's just perseverance mainly. I never want to quit, and I just keep persevering. Like you said earlier, I just want to persevere and follow my dream.
Well, it's something about those Mexican fighters with that Mexican heart. Just want to keep on going no matter what, no matter how the cards are stacked, whether it's against them.
We take a licking and keep on ticking.
That's the way it works, man. That's the way it works. Let's talk a second about this gentleman you're going to be fighting. He's a gentleman outside the ring, but inside the ring he gets a little vicious. I'm talking about David Diaz. Now, we know him pretty well. David Diaz is definitely no slouch. He's the former WBC lightweight champion, and you're going to be putting on the gloves against him. What do we know about him, and how would you go about fighting? How are you going to go about fighting a guy like David?
Well, thank God I've gotten to know David Diaz throughout the years. He and I grew up together here in Chicago. And, well, I know him very well. I know the way he fights, and he knows the way that I fight. But come September 26th at the UIC Pavilion, there's going to be a reacquaintance with each other, and, I'm actually looking forward to it.
Oh, very much so.
Now, you and David basically came up in the same gym as amateurs, correct?
Different gyms, but still in the same circuit, although I might have been advanced because of age. And, now it comes to the point in time where he and I have to, or want to meet, actually, here in Chicago and give Chicago the great fight night that it's required.
Now, I've been reading a lot about you lately, Jesus. Some people are saying that you're setting this up for a retirement. Other people are saying you want to use a win over David Diaz to propel yourself up towards another title shot. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's the same thought that David Diaz may have. Also, this is pretty much a duel or break kind of fight for both of us. If either of us wins, may have to sit on the stool for a couple of more fights and think about it, or the other one may just carry on and move forward in his boxing career. But that's pretty much where he and I both are at. We're both at risk-taking kind of fighters, and we're taking this fight at that kind of risk.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Jesus. Anyone that has ever seen you fight knows that Jesus Chavez has never been in a boring fight. Jesus Chavez has excellent defense. He's got excellent power, and he can hit with both hands. He comes at you. He's not a fighter to, and I don't mean to talk about you in the third person with you on the phone and all, but just for those of you that might not be as familiar with your work as I am, this is a man, guys. Those of you listening at home, this is a man who comes forward. This is a man who simply he comes forward, and some of the names on his record are just ridiculous. Some of the great champions that he has fought and beat. I mean, it would take forever to list all of these, but you don't see a real loss. I mean, there was a loss earlier in your career against a relatively anonymous fighter, but your first real loss against a named fighter was against Floyd Mayweather, and that was in 2001. You'd already been fighting over 6 years at that point.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think that the only people that I've lost to in the past have been world champions and former world champions, and there's there's absolutely no shame in losing to a former champion of the world or a former champion of the world. And, you know, I am very fortunate and lucky to know that those are the only kind of opponents that I've lost to.
Well, with Floyd Mayweather just taking apart a fellow Mexican, a gentleman from Mexican descent, Juan Manuel Marquez this past weekend, you can actually look back in time and say, well, I was in the ring with Floyd. Talk a second about your fight with Floyd Mayweather and what you took from that fight.
Well, from every single fight, you learn something. There is a little something that you either learn or you just, I don't know, you just kind of break into, I can't really pinpoint the word, but you just take something from that fighter, or that fighter takes something from you, that it's a learning process. And that's the beauty about boxing, that every single boxer's style is different, and that you learn something from every single fighter, or, you know, they take something from you in return. So it's let me see, what can I say?
You learned that night that Floyd is really, really fast.
He's very fast. He's defensively a better fighter than any other fighters that I've ever faced before.
Okay. Well, that's quite an endorsement.
Well, you and David Diaz actually have one of these Hall of Famers in common that you fought. He actually has a win over Eric Morales, and you have a loss over Eric Morales. Can you kind of sum up the differences in between the two fights there, or why yours is a loss and his is a win, maybe?
Well, it's simple. My loss is because I tore my rotator cuff in the second round, and I fought the rest of the entire fight for 10 rounds with one hand. And basically that's why I lost that fight, because I fought him with one hand for 10 rounds.
And I have never heard Jesus Chavez mention that until right now. I mean, so that's the mark of a man right there, too. Not complaining, not saying, oh, I lost, you know, because of this, that, or the other. He answered our question, which is exactly what we wanted. But you didn't go to the press and start complaining. Well, if I'd have been healthy, you know, I'd have whooped Eric Morales. You respect the fact that Morales is one of the greatest fighters ever.
Well, yeah, he is. And respect is given to those who win. You know, he won. Unfortunately, I had to overcome some injuries during the fight, but you know, everything is well. I'm not a bitter man. I just, you know, live to fight another day. That's all.
Beautiful.
How's the shoulder doing now?
We're perfect. I think that you know, you guys will be able to see that this coming Saturday night at the UIC Pavilion, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm put together, both my knees, both my shoulders, and everything is intact.
Beautiful. That's exactly what we want to hear. I've got to put you through the Bolo Punch ringer real quick. This is something we ask all the fighters we interview. Who do you think you have hit harder in a fight, more so than you hit anyone else? The hardest punch you ever threw was against who?
Man, I can't really tell, because I try to punch everybody just as hard.
Sure. Okay, I'll let you stew on that a second. Who has hit you harder than anyone else? That might be easy.
There's not stewing on that one. There's a guy named Javier Jauriki from Guadalajara, Mexico.
Oh, you answered that one right away then.
Yeah, you can't forget a hard punch.
Well, I will be looking him up. Awesome, awesome. Jesus Chavez, we thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening to sit and talk with Bolo Punch. We are going to be seeing you Saturday night, UIC Pavilion in Chicago, against David Diaz, two former champions fighting in Chicago. For tickets, call 312-226-5800. That's 312-226-5800. Jesus Chavez, thank you so much for taking the time. We will talk to you very soon, sir.
It's my pleasure, and thank you guys for taking the time to talk to me also.
Awesome, champ. We'll talk to you in a couple days. Bye-bye.
You can also catch
good. Good night.
Yes, sir.
You can also catch that fight on GoFightLive.tv.
GoFightLive.tv. That is going to be the way to see it if you can't get there in person. We will be there, And let's go ahead and take a break. We'll be right back with our fighter you should know. This is Bolo Punch.